In episode 9 of my Doodle podcast series, I'm going to be discussing how social media, short videos in particular, are completely destroying our brains, and how if we don't make some changes soon, our inaction is going to have very dire consequences to the future of humanity. I'll also be drawing a spread from my upcoming children's book, which features those lovable toads getting into a little bit of mischief with the police. So sit back and relax as I foreshadow the downfall of society as we know it. Hey guys, Craig here. Hope everybody's doing well. Okay, so the reason that I'm not drawing a new full-page doodle in this episode has a lot to do with the actual topic of this video, and I'll get into why that is as soon as I start drawing. So let's get to it. Now, I've been fascinated by the human brain for as long as I can remember. In fact, it's the reason that I initially decided to major in psychology the first time I went to university. Now, I never ended up finishing my university degree, and that's because the amount of time and money that it would have required to do so was way beyond my means at the time. That being said, I did continue to read books pertaining to the subject of the human brain for many years after that. I was extremely fascinated by the topic of neuroplasticity and how neural connections are established in the brain every time we learn something new. You'll often hear neurologists say that neurons that wire together fire together. Neurons connect in our brain every time we perform a task, and the longer and the more often we perform that task, the more neural connections are made. Now, in between these neural connections, there's a little gap known as a synaptic gap, and it's here that tiny pulses of electricity fire between the two neurons. It's kind of like when you rub your sock-covered feet on the living room carpet and then touch the television only to get a little shock. Only in the case of the brain, the electrical signal that's firing is translated into a chemical signal that can be perceived by the other neuron. The point of all this is that these neural connections play an extremely important role in how we function on a day-to-day basis. For instance, take trying to learn how to play a musical instrument. The first time that you try to play the guitar, you might find it extremely difficult to even just fret a note on the fretboard without getting an annoying buzzing sound. And when you do finally get the note to resonate properly, getting your picking hand to sync up with your fretting hand can still take a little work. But as you continue to practice, your brain establishes more and more neural connections as a result of that task. And the more connections your brain makes for that task, the easier performing that task will become. And this is why people who have been playing the guitar daily for 10 or more years find the task to be almost second nature. And this holds true for pretty much any other skill as well. Whether it's drawing, painting, dancing, skiing, or playing chess, it's those neural connections that help you to master the task. The problem is that those connections don't happen very fast. It can take up to about 10,000 repetitions to reach the point where enough neural connections have been made in the brain to make the task you're performing seem much easier. And those 10,000 repetitions could take you weeks or even months to perform. Now, the downside of these neural connections is that if you stop performing the task for a very long time, these connections will eventually start to disconnect from each other. So the longer you go without performing the task, the less connections you'll have in your brain for that particular task, and the harder that task will be for you to perform. And this is where the problem with social media comes in. When you spend hours reading a book or studying for an exam, your brain is establishing thousands of new neural connections every second. And the longer you study, the more connections will be made, and therefore the longer the information will remain in your brain. Now remember, it takes focusing on one particular topic for a significant length of time to make enough neural connections to be able to retain that information. But when you're only receiving information in 15 to 30 second bites, and then you're abandoning the subject matter altogether, your brain really isn't retaining a damn thing. Now, when you factor in that every time you watch a short video, your brain gives you a quick little blast of dopamine, and because your body becomes addicted to that dopamine rush, you begin to watch short videos exclusively, your attention span becomes very limited. This is why the members of the younger generation who spend hours every day scrolling through short videos also, by no coincidence, just happen to have the attention span of a goldfish. So if those kids don't have the attention span to spend 4 or 5 hours studying a particular topic, or to sit through a 3-hour lecture, how are they ever going to develop the knowledge required to create a career for themselves? And I'm not just talking about entrepreneurs, I'm talking about skilled trades as well. This is a serious dilemma that humanity is going to have to deal with in the coming decades. At some point, those kids with the limited attention spans are going to be running the world. And the only reason that I'm able to find peace in that knowledge is due to the fact that I'll probably be dead by then. When I think about the direction that Gen Alpha is heading in, I can't help but be reminded of the movie Idiocracy. If you haven't seen that movie yet, I strongly suggest that you check it out. It's almost prophetic in nature. But these short videos are not just affecting the younger generation, they're affecting all of us. Now, I'm not a big consumer of short videos. I don't have a TikTok account, and I rarely watch shorts on YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram. I generally prefer the longer form content. That being said, I do tend to watch a lot of videos that are under 10 minutes in length. And just from doing that, I've noticed that my attention span has decreased dramatically in just a few short years. I can't even tell you how many times I've spent an hour or two on YouTube watching shorter videos and then hopped over to Netflix and spent an entire hour just trying to find a movie to watch, only to end up giving up and heading back over to YouTube. Now, it's not that there aren't any good movies to watch on Netflix, there are plenty of them. I just can't seem to make it through the first 5 minutes of any movie, even the good ones. In fact, if you were to look through my Netflix account, you'd see that about 30% of the movies on that platform had already been started, only to be aborted by me around the 3 to 5 minute mark. I rarely make it through the opening credits nowadays. And that's because of YouTube. We've become so accustomed to being drawn into a video within the first 30 seconds that when we're presented with a lead-in to help establish the storyline of a movie, we find ourselves bored out of our minds. Now, on the rare occasion that I can actually force myself to watch an entire movie, it's more often than not that I enjoy them. So my consistent abandonment of movies really has nothing to do with the overall quality of the movies that I'm watching. It's just my limited attention span. And the worst part is that this is carried over into my work life as well. Sure, I may be working on many things at one time, which spreads my attention around a bit. But that's not the reason that you've been getting fewer video uploads from me lately on my YouTube channel. It's because I can't stay focused long enough on any one particular project to actually finish it. This spread that I'm drawing right now is just one of 3 books that I'm currently working on. If my attention span was where it was 5 years ago, I'd have finished all 3 of those books and would probably have over 100 videos uploaded to my channel by now. Fortunately, there is a way to overcome this, and that's simply to start doing things for longer periods of time and lay off the short form content. Your attention span isn't going to come back right away, but over time it will eventually start getting better. And that's all fine and dandy for someone like myself who can identify the problem in my own life and who knows how to fix it. But what about Gen Z or Gen Alpha, who have no idea that they even have a problem in the first place? This is one of the primary reasons that the kids in these generations seem so lost and directionless. There are a lot of great career opportunities out there today if you're willing to put in the time to learn how to do them. But just like the 2-hour Netflix movies, if that subject matter isn't able to grab those kids' attention within the first few minutes, the odds that they would be willing to devote any more of their time into developing a long-form learning regimen aren't very good. And artificial intelligence is just making this problem even worse. Gone are the days when it took 10,000 hours to master something. With AI, you can now do in hours what used to take months. And although on the surface that may seem like a good thing, it's not. It would be one thing if we were still using our own artistic vision to create something with the aid of AI technology, but that's not what's happening. We're simply telling AI what it is we want, and then we're settling for the best version of whatever interpretation it presents to us. If we continue down this path, it's going to radically change humanity as we know it. No matter what you want to change in your life, improving on something has always required a certain level of struggle. It's that struggle that strengthens us to overcome the obstacles that stand between us and the improvement we want to make. But if you take away that struggle, there will be no improvement. Most of you are probably too young to remember this, but back in the 60s and 70s, there was a fitness machine that consisted of an oscillating pulley that was attached to a canvas belt that went around your waist. When you turned the machine on, it would quickly move the canvas belt back and forth across your belly, or across your butt, depending on which way you were facing. The whole point of this device was to give you some type of cardiovascular workout that would eventually lead to weight loss. In reality, all it did was further draw attention to just how overweight you actually were by shaking your body fat around. Weight loss is only achieved with caloric restriction and some element of exercise, and those two things require a struggle on your part. And no machine that is designed to remove the struggle is going to overcome that fact. If humanity is going to survive, we need to learn to embrace that struggle and stop trying to make everything easier to do. Not everything needs to be quick and convenient, and that includes our entertainment and education. We need to go back to the days of long-form educational content that actually has a positive impact on our mental health. We need to stop consuming information in 15-second bites and start focusing on content that actually expands our minds as well as our attention spans. And one way to do that is to go back to reading books while reducing our time on social media. It's not that you can't find good engaging content on the internet. It's just that it tends to come with so many tempting distractions. It's okay to consume that content from time to time, as long as we see it as some sort of treat. Like the old saying goes, everything in moderation is fine. But when it comes to consuming content that is designed to educate us, as well as better our lives, it would be far more effective if it was delivered in a much longer format with less distractions. Unfortunately, unless the big corporations that run social media find a way to make replacing short-form content with long-form content a more profitable venture, then I really don't see this happening. So for the near future, humanity is going to have to police itself when it comes to doing what's best for us. And this includes resisting the dopamine drip that is social media. It's funny how even though technology is spending trillions of dollars per year trying to make our lives easier, inevitably it's just making our lives much harder to live. Alright, that's enough ranting for me for one video. I wanted to post this video just to let you know that I haven't given up on this channel just yet. My creative attention is just a little off focus at the moment. I'm hoping that with a few minor life changes that my focus will eventually come back to what it was. But until that time, the video upload schedule for this channel is going to remain pretty much the same. I think for the foreseeable future that when I do post videos, I'm going to stick to design-related tutorials that will help you to improve your overall book publishing skills. Okay, now I'll shut up and I'll let you enjoy the last minute or two of this drawing in peace. Okay, so hopefully this video will encourage some of you to cut down on your social media habits a bit, or at the very least motivate you to start watching more long-form content in an effort to preserve whatever functional brain matter you have left. And if you'd like to check out additional episodes of my Doodle podcast series, you can find a link to that playlist right here. Until next time, take care.